Hi everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. I'm Amma Mama. I am glad that you stopped by. I am just doing a quick reading update for what I've read this past week. However, I realized that when I posted my last video, I had completely forgotten to talk about the fact that I had listened to Funny Story by Emily Henry on Audible. And I know that one's big right now from what I've been watching, like on the people that I watch, a lot of people have read this. I really loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It was just a fun book. Again, I listened to it, so it wasn't something that I was like sitting down, reading. I was listening to it while I was up doing things, driving, stuff like that. And so with that, it was just fun to follow the story. But basically in this book, you have the two main people are Daphne and Miles. And Daphne is engaged to be married to a man named Peter, and Miles has a girlfriend named Petra who he lives with, and Peter leaves Daphne for Petra. So Daphne's fiance and Miles's girlfriend, they leave the two of them for each other. And so Daphne has nowhere to live and Miles needs a roommate, so they move in together. And so that's kind of like the base for the story. But there was just so many, cute things that happen, and she's a librarian, and when the breakup happens, like all she wants to do is to move away from the town that they're in. And so she's kind of counting down the days to that, but there's something going on that she can't leave till a certain time. So I don't want to give away a whole lot of stuff, but it was just really cute. It was a fun story to listen to, just very lighthearted. Again, it wasn't anything like super deep, really thought-provoking. It did have some really, I think it had some good themes surrounding even things like friendship, love, being true to yourself. And I don't know, I don't want to like make any spoilers, but one thing, I'm going to try to say this without saying a whole lot. One thing that I really liked is that in this book, something happens that with the way Emily Henry wrote about it, it just showed, I think, some good maturity on the character of Daphne, and a choice that she made that really was for her, that did kind of have to do with the relationship, but not in the way that you might have thought leading up to that part. But it's hard to kind of explain that without giving away too much of the details. And I feel like that was something kind of important to the book, in my opinion. So I don't want to say a whole lot, but it was really good. I had fun with it. So again, Funny Story, Emily Henry. I gave it 5 stars just because I thought it was really well done and it was fun to listen to. I liked the characters. It was just kind of a very happy, summery, fun book, and it had enough stuff in it that did make me laugh. So I thought it was cute. I really liked it. So that was something I had actually read the week before that I had forgotten to talk about in my last video. So then I will move on to this week. So this week I actually did a lot of my reading / listening on Audible and also Kindle. So the first book that I finished listening to on Audible, and I had the Kindle version of it, but as you know, if you've been here for any amount of time, I don't really enjoy reading on my devices. So I had the Kindle version of this book, and then I ended up just paying for the Audible version of it because it was on sale for very cheap. And so it didn't feel wasteful for me to have 2 copies of it. But that is Holly Banks' Full of Angst. And it's book 1 in the Village of Prim, and this is by Julie Valerie. First, I'll say I don't know if I'll get the second one. I might, because it might be interesting to kind of see what happens. I gave this book 4 stars on Goodreads, but I'm kind of like, I was like somewhere between a 3.5 to a 4 stars. It was actually not a bad story. I kind of liked it, but I think I went into it assuming it was, I don't know if I thought it was going to be a romance or like very high drama. I'm not sure what I thought, but because it wasn't starting out the way I had expected it to do at first, I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. But basically, there's this young family, Holly and her husband and their daughter, who have moved to the Village of Prim, and their daughter is getting ready to start kindergarten a few days after they have moved in. And the way the book opens up, it gave like a Stepford Wives kind of feel, like you're wondering, is this going to turn into like a science fiction kind of thing? Because what is wrong with all of the women in this town? And that kind of feel maybe goes a little bit throughout the story. And I'm remembering now why I bumped my rating up a little bit. And so I'll kind of explain that too. But so they move into the town. Everybody's like over the top, you know, friendly, and Pinterest perfect houses, and just like porches. There's a lot of talk about how inviting the porches are, and all of this stuff. And there's a line in the book where the realtor is talking to Holly after she's bringing her an insane amount of like welcome gifts right after she moved in. And she says something like, in the Village of Prim, you don't have to worry about keeping up with the Joneses because we are the Joneses. People are trying to keep up with us. And so Holly is already starting to feel kind of overwhelmed because she's like, am I good enough to be in this town? Am I going to be able to keep up with these people? Like, what's going on? And then you meet the mother who is the head of the PTA, Margaret St. James. And her whole character, I was just so angry with this character from the start of the book. And again, I was listening to it. And so just hearing this woman, like, it was just making me cringe every time she would speak, because I was like, oh, what is wrong with this woman? And I kept wanting Holly to like do something, but then every time Holly would try to do something, it would backfire on her. So like, it ended up like, again, there was a lot of like humor and things like that peppered throughout. And after I got used to some of the stuff, I found that I was enjoying the storyline more than I thought I was going to. And even though a lot of the things seemed very eccentric, very over the top, I think it fit well. And the reason why I said that I had originally been thinking like 3.5 stars, and I ended up bumping it to 4, was because later on I started thinking about some of the elements to the way the writing was in this book. And I realized that, I hope, I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, I'm thinking the author intended it to be the way that it was. And so, for example, like Holly had gone to film school. And so at the start of each chapter, she's seeing her life playing out like a scene. And so she's like, director tells the people this, and then she's like reciting lines. And so like she's seeing it like a movie. But then in the book, at one point she is doing some filming because she wants to get back into film. And so there's some things that happen that I'm thinking that maybe the author did it artistically on purpose. And if that's the case, then it actually added to the book. If it was an accident, then I guess it just kind of worked out in their favor. But it feels like maybe that had been done on purpose. And so because of that, that kind of bumped the story up for me to where I liked it even more, because all of the ties back to film. So again, like feeling like it was this strange setting that was reminiscent of the Stepford Wives and that kind of thing. It ended up feeling like that was all on purpose. And so it made it work more than when I was just thinking, why is this happening? So anyways, overall, I did enjoy it. It was a fun story. The way it ended, I don't have to read the next one, but if I kind of want to see what happened at the end of the situation that was partially resolved, I would need to read the second book. So I'm not completely sure if I'm there yet, but possibly. Then I need to look it up because I forgot the name of the person who did this. I'm just talking about all the Kindle books first. So then I also finished reading Emotional Rescue, Essays on Love, Loss, and Life with a Soundtrack by Ben Greenman. And this book actually surprised me. It was a book of essays, like it said, on love, life, and loss. And each chapter was an essay with a different topic. And so it might say, like, I don't even remember what the chapter titles were, but like it might say something like Fear and Bravery. I don't think that was one of them, but something like that, where you have these kind of opposing thoughts that are going to be. And then at the beginning of each chapter, it has a list of songs that are going to be kind of referenced. And then it's a short essay where he talks about something having to do with that. And when I had first gotten this book, I thought it sounded interesting, but then realizing that I don't really read a lot of just essays anymore after I got out of school, I wasn't sure if I was going to care for it, but it was really good. I mean, I don't know that there was anything in there that was super powerful to the point where it's going to stick with me for life or anything, but a lot of the essays had a lot of really good points in them and just his thoughts and everything. And again, being a book of essays, I'm not really going to give it, like a rating for the writing or anything like that, or if that, but I would recommend it, especially if you're someone who enjoys reading, and hearing other people's thoughts and stuff like that. I liked how he used the music to kind of explain his life, and there was, just some personal stories and things like that. And the last essay in there was probably one of my favorite. And I don't want to say a lot about it just because at the end I was like, oh, good, that answered a question I kind of had throughout the rest of his essays. And because he uses like his dating life a lot, and his friendships to talk about different things. So I think that was definitely worth the read. It didn't take all that long to read. When I first was doing it, I was trying to look up the music ahead of time and like listen to the songs, because a lot of them were things that I hadn't heard. And there were some songs that I was familiar with, but definitely some that I wasn't. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to listen to the songs. But that was taking a very long time because some of the songs were so old, it was really hard to find them, even with like Spotify and YouTube and everything. And when I realized how long it was taking me just to find these songs and then listen to them, I kind of gave that up, especially since one of the chapters, like there were 4 or 5 songs listed. And then I realized after I started listening to the second one in the list, they were all just versions of the first ones. And whenever he would talk about stuff, he did list the lyrics in there. So I didn't feel like it was hurting me that I didn't listen to or wasn't familiar with the songs. So it was still good to read, but I definitely enjoyed that more than I thought I would. So I would recommend it. And then the last book that I finally finished this week is Chain Gang All-Stars by Nanakwame Adjei-Brenyah. And this book was really good, and it was partially what I expected, but a lot not what I expected. Basically, you are following lots of people, but the 2 main characters really in this book are Loretta Thurwar and Hamera Hurricane Stacks. And so her name's Hamera Stacker. But they're inmates in the prison system. And basically in this book, they have changed the prison system where people can choose if they're on death row, or if they are incarcerated for life or over a certain number of years, they can choose to participate in what they call the CAPE program, and it's Criminal Action Penal Entertainment. And it is basically a high stakes game show, like entertainment show, kind of like Gladiators, modern day Gladiators. But so you can participate in it, and when you do that, you give up all of the rights. Well, I don't even want to say rights, but you are kind of switching your sentence over, and you have to participate in these games, and they're televised. People can pay to watch them, but then they also, or I don't remember, one of the things is pay to watch, and then the other one everybody can see. But basically these inmates get followed around by cameras, and they have like these floating cameras that follow them, but they follow them around all the time. And so people just watch their lives in prison and everything. And they're part of a link system. And by joining in the program, they have to participate in these gladiator style fights. And if they lose, you're dead, because it's fight to the death. And if you win, you move on and you move up in rank. And if you make it to a certain rank, which usually takes about 3 years, you can be freed from prison. And so, again, they follow their lives and everything. So when they're part of this chain gang, they will have these periods of time, like when they go to the fights, like they're put up in a nice hotel and they get to eat well and all of this, and everything's being televised. And so Loretta and Hamara are they're lovers that met in the prison system and stuff, but they're in love, and so you're also following them, and they're on the same link. And there's a lot of stuff. I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail because it's kind of important to the story, but some stuff happens at the end. But it wasn't just all about the fighting. So I had kind of expected the book to be more about the fighting, and what it's more about is it's taking kind of a really heavy look at what our prison system is like, and it's exaggerated it to the point of like, well, what if we just did this instead? Like, would people look at these things different? And there's footnotes throughout the book with like different statistics and laws and things like that. And so like there's a scene in here that there's like a riot going on, and so they shoot tear gas to start, breaking up the crowd. And in the book, it lists a law. I was trying to see if I could find it really quick, but it lists a law. I don't remember what page it's on, but it lists a law that it's giving you like all these codes, but basically tear gas has been banned from being used in war since like 1975 because it's considered chemical warfare, and so they're not allowed to use it in war. But because in that situation they call it riot control, it has made it to where it's excluded from not being used in that situation. So they can use it on citizens during a riot, but they're not allowed to use it on enemies during a war because it's been banned by these regulations and conventions and stuff. So just some interesting stuff like that. And then explaining, there's stuff in there, statistics about how many white males are imprisoned per 1,000 versus how many colored males are imprisoned per 1,000. So again, African American, Hispanic, anybody of color. And then it also looks at women in general versus men. Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff in the book. So It was definitely a heavier read. I knew just from reading the back, like I kind of assumed that was partly what was going to be going on in this, but it was really well written. I definitely gave this 5 stars. It was a really good book. And it does really make you think about, our prison system, which, they talk in the book about, institutionalized slavery and stuff like that. And, again, there's a lot of stuff. I'm not going to go into a lot of the like political stuff. If it's something that interests you, I would highly recommend this, though. It was a really, really good book, very powerful. I can see why it was one of the National Book Award finalists. So definitely worth reading, but because it was so heavy, it was one that like I would read for a little while and then I would need to put it down for a bit and then I would pick it back up and read it. And even with the ending, it doesn't give you, it's not a book that you're going to read and end up with like a happy, flowery feeling in your heart and, joy that you've read this book. But it was worth the read. So, anyways, that is what I have read this week. I'm still plugging away with my, Kipling, and then I've also been working on my Mark Twain short stories, and so those are going well. And then I'm trying to see, I don't know if I'm going to finish everything in June that I wanted to finish because I just started reading Red, White, and Royal Blue yesterday, and I still have 2 other books that I haven't even picked up yet. So we'll kind of see what I get done this week and how much reading time I have. But because some of the stuff I have this month was either longer, heavier, all of those things, I haven't been reading as much as what I have on other months. So I may not finish my TBR this month, and it's fine if I do not. I'll tack it on. I'll tack it on for July if I need to. But anyways, it's been a good week, and I've really been enjoying everything I've read this week. So I hope you all have a great week, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.